Rainy day today, very rainy day. We have this beautiful 2012 Q5 with a 2.0 engine that was puking oil all over the valve cover. It's easy to do, just the main thing is you have to clean every single surface. Like, it has to be spotless because this one does not take gasket, takes sealant, silicone. So make sure, clean it really good, more than once. I already cleaned it 3 times. I'm gonna give it one more, and you have to absolutely have to torque it to spec because the actual valve cover itself is part of the camshaft bearings. On traditional ways, on the camshaft you have bearings held by 2 screws on each section here, but Audi decided is like, why do that? Let's just incorporate the bearing into the actual valve cover itself, so the actual camshaft rides into the valve cover. That's why it's critical to like torque it to spec. It has to be torqued to 8 Newton meters and then an additional 90 degrees. Okay, so this is the sealing compound. It's genuine Volkswagen Audi. It works awesome. Never had anyone come back, so. You're not supposed to put any sealant right here. There's only sealant you're supposed to put. And I just put a small film right here too. Gently we tighten the valve cover down. Now we're gonna torque it to 8 Newton meters. It starts in a pattern. So this is a snap-on tool. It's one of my favorite. It's a 3/8. So after the Newton meter torque, you just go to degrees. It's set to 90. You can set to whatever from 1 degree to 360 pretty much, and just keep going. Make sure you keep the pattern. And the good thing about this one, it holds the memory if you cannot do one full 90-degree turn. So pretty much this is the hardest part, torquing it and clean it. Make sure you make it spotless. Now we're gonna put a brand new gasket in the back for the vacuum pump, and new gaskets for the upper timing cover. Clean, because I love cleaning. I mean, I like the engine to be shiny. Clean everything up and then give it to the customer.
So today in the shop we have a 2001 Mercedes-Benz S-Class, and it has air ride on it, and it's sagging super low on one side that the customer can't drive it. So instead of replacing those airbag systems and having them eventually going out again, we're actually replacing it with just a standard coil-on spring. So what we're doing is we're in the fuse box right now where the module sits, and they actually send you a little kit to pretty much trick the computer and all the lights in the dash that everything's still okay with the air ride system. So taking this out, making sure we're getting the right module, then plugging this in, setting this all up before we take all the struts out and replace them with the new non-airbag struts. There's 2 modules that sit in here. So there's a description on both these modules that you want to look at when you're taking these out, and they actually have a pretty good description on the website where you get those struts at on how to do this. And I actually looked at those instructions just to, you know, be sure what I'm looking at. I know guys are not supposed to, you know, read instructions, but I kind of don't want to fry a module, so we're getting this one out and reading what's on it. Ah, there it is right there. So if you see on the code here, that letter, that word that starts with the T, this is the module that you need to pull out. And what you're doing is you're taking these off, and you're permanently leaving these connectors off of this module. And you're plugging this little small connector into the supplied module that they give you, pretty much like a dummy module to read that everything's okay. So, I mean, the cost of this, airbags, they're not per airbag, it's a pretty decent amount of money. If you're like replacing all of them, like this one probably needs, you're probably looking, you know, over $2,000. And then if you're going to keep it long term, eventually those airbags are going to go out again. So you're just constantly, you know, putting over $2,000 of just suspension parts that just wear out over time. This kit, you know, I can't remember how much he bought this for. I'll have to look at the website again, but it's significantly cheaper, or about the same for the whole kit, but you get more longevity in just putting the, you know, shock strut, you know, coil in, so then your airbags don't blow out again and you're in the same situation. So that's this thing plugged into here, like so. And I'm just going to put that right on top of there, because that doesn't get plugged back in, neither does that. We'll see how that works out in the box. We might have to adjust that a little bit to make sure the box keeps low in there. I mean, I guess we could take that module completely out if you're wanting to, but I'm leaving it in there just in case if one day he wants to go that route again and the box is already sitting in there. They even give you this fuse for the power for this module. There's an open box or open spot in the fuse box that you just snap this down into, and then we'll hook the ground up, which I'm probably gonna hook ground up first, and then plug in our fuse, and we should be good to go on this side. Probably gonna put it right here on this ground. Gonna route it over this way. So, and that, look at that, plenty of space to go all the way over there, which I'm probably gonna route it underneath that. I'm gonna write that down right there. And tighten that down. And that's on the ground. And it's underneath where all the other wires go, so it won't look like a mess. This 5-inch fuse right here, that's right next to the 7.5, that is the supplied fuse that they gave you. You just sit it right down into the fuse box and plug it in, and that's your power. And then the ground, of course, is over here, and you'll actually see a little red light that actually comes on that module, so then you know it's getting power. You see it right in there, just shining away. And we'll just tuck that right down in the box. I got it plugged into the little connector over there that plugged into the module, the old module. So that should be good. I'm just going to keep that off for now, just in case we have any problems with it. You got this wire in here for the actual air strut itself that goes up into here, and it also connects with your ABS line also. So you pull that out. I just like taking everything out of this corner because it's so tight in there, and just to give you a little bit more room to work with when you're pulling those connectors out, and then it's easier to push that connector in when your brake pad sensor isn't sitting right next to it. Gives you a little bit more room, helps you out trying to get your fingers up in there. And then this unplug it, this kind of snaps off from each other. You plug that one back in, route everything back up. So then you just have your wire for your strut. And then I also took out the bolt for the top control arm to give it a little bit more room when we pull out the strut. It makes it a lot easier, and I don't think you can get it out without taking that off. So this gives you a lot more room. So there's one. Exactly the same. Look at Johnny's bigger bar. This is the airline supply for this strut. So this is where the compressor kicks on, and it goes through a series of lines to fill up your strut. And we're deleting that, so I don't need this anymore. I'm going to unhook that, and I'm just going to stick it back in here. You can't really see it. It's all good. You know, for this job, you really need some tools for this. First, you need a NOS, maybe two. Second, you need some donut holes. Essential. That's all you need. That's it. Out of this whole thing, those two. So we're going to start on the back now. The back goes up into the back quarter of the interior. So it goes in the deck panel there. There's a little, we'll show you, but there's a little spot that you just pop up. Looks like a speaker cover, and you can see the 3 bolts for the mounts for this strut. And this one comes down and into this lower control arm. So Johnny started getting nosy.
See? I'll do this side on the other side.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we came up with maybe an easier idea because I was like, well, we have to take out the sway bar link to get it dropped down enough. And he's like, hey, why don't we just drop the other side too, and then we can just kind of swing this whole arm out of the way to make it easier to come out. And I was like, sounds like a pretty good idea. So that's what we're doing. That's a tech tip right there. If you can take 5 more minutes to make it easier, just make it easier on yourself. That goes with anything. Alright. Just gonna lower her down and get the 3 bolts on top. There's a little tiny cover. This is like a little felt. You know, almost looks like there's supposed to be a speaker there or something, but it's actually access to those 3 nuts that sit on top. I'll just make sure.
So those are offset, the screws here. You got to make sure the longest, which is this one here, goes towards the front or towards the passenger side. And it worked. Funny part was I was getting a cramp on my leg, so I didn't want to let go, so that was kind of painful a little bit.
So all we got left to do now is just do an oil change and go drive it, make sure there's no clunks or anything in it. Just started it to see if there's any warning lights or anything like that for the suspension. There is none. It came on with one when we drove it in, and that is now all gone. So now we just got to torque the wheels, get everything ready like that oil change, and give it back to the customer, and we'll be ready to go.